Hey, everybody. Welcome to our session today. It's great to have you with us. Today, we're going to be talking about bridging the gap between design and development. My name is Russ Drury from Zeppelin, and I'm joined by three fantastic guests today. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves now. We've got Adam, Daniel, and Dan. Gents, what I want you to do is introduce who you are, your role, where you're from, and I'd like you to tell everyone which city you're in and one great thing to do in your city if we were to come visit. So, Adam, let's throw it over to you first of all.
Okay. I'm Adam Warner. I work at Amazon as a senior UX designer, and originally from the Dallas, Texas area. Moved here about three and a half years ago for the same reason most people move to Seattle, which is to work for Amazon. So, or at least used to pre-pandemic. Best thing in my city is it's probably what's right behind me here. You can just barely see, which is the Space Needle. Everyone has to see that when they come in. Us locals probably get sick of taking people there, but it's a nice view.
That's a nice backdrop. Awesome. Yeah. Daniel, let's throw over to you now.
I'm Daniel. I'm a front-end developer at Pixel Matters. I've been working with the company for about 2 years now. It will be 2 years in April. I've started in lockdown phase, so it was interesting at least. So I'm originally from a city in Portugal near Porto, which is where I live now. And what I would say you have to definitely do in Porto is eat the francesinha. A francesinha is like a sandwich with a special sauce. And I can tell you more about it. You just have to try it for yourself. And maybe take a walk down the river. It's really beautiful.
Lovely. Right. Sounds great. Nice. Got me hungry. Dan, let's go over to you now.
Hi, my name is Dan, and I work at Forbes as the product design director. And I am coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. And I guess if you're in Brooklyn, I think off the beaten path is a place like a neighborhood called Red Hook. A nice, beautiful walk along the harbor, and you can see the Statue of Liberty and the tugboats, and there's good food and bars down there. So come on over.
Love it. Well, hopefully we can all come visit one day. It's great to meet you all. Let's dive straight in because we've got so much that we can talk about today. Let's start off talking about the value of UX. Of course, you need both design and development to have a great user experience. And there's been such an explosion in both fields over the past decade. So let's start off and talk about why do you think UX is so important today? Adam, let's start with you. Why is UX so important to you in the business today?
I think it's complexity. I think people are facing a fire hose of information every day. And I think good UX is vital that we, when we're actually trying to create these experiences to keep the cognitive load down and make sure that our interfaces and workflows are clean and efficient and to the point so that customers can get in, get done what they need to get done, and then get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dan, what about you as well at Forbes? Why is UX so important to you there?
Yeah, agree. I mean, people don't have a lot of time. And like Adam said, there's like tons of information coming at them. And we have to sort of respect their time and respect their wishes of kind of delivering what they want immediately. So UX is just 100% the business now. I mean, if something has bad UX, people flee. So things like, like the explosion of TikTok, the UX on that is amazing and beautiful and super easy. And therefore you see why it's the number one thing out there nowadays. So.
Yeah, and TikTok's a great example. I mean, hugely addictive, and it's probably because a large part of how it's designed and how the user experiences that. Within your organizations, how has UX been prioritized to make sure that it's is so important? Daniel, any thoughts on the prioritization of UX?
Yeah, actually, I think that UX is the main differentiator today between your product and someone else's product. And like you've said, lowering the barrier to entry basically to a product and allowing the people to not feel so overwhelmed when using it. I think that's the main goal that we should look for nowadays. So making it easier for the consumer or your user, and basically making him loyal to your products. I think that great UX is one big key in making your customer loyal, basically.
Loyalty, super key. I guess, Adam, you probably don't have that problem as much at Amazon. Everyone flocks to Amazon naturally. Well, what about the prioritization there, given the commercial aspect of Amazon as well?
Yeah, I think it's kind of baked in at the company. I mean, there's a huge focus on customer. In fact, we don't even internally call it UX often. We call it CX. It's customer experience, right? So it's, yeah, like I said, it's really built into the DNA of the company to emphasize that. And it's emphasized through the entire stack. So the UXers are given quite a bit of autonomy within their groups to improve the CX, and we're included at literally like every phase of the product creation or a new feature creation. So, yeah, I think in order to maintain their competitive edge, Amazon is always trying to like highly emphasize the customer experience, because they know, big companies in the past have eventually failed that people didn't think could fail, and I know Amazon seems like it can't, but you still have to maintain that competitive advantage. So,
it's interesting what you say there about how it's baked in. It is baked into the fabric of the company.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's from the very first day. Like, I mean, you were just completely, I would say, hit over the head with the fact that the customer experience is vital to the company's success, and I think that shows in our results. So,
yeah, Dan, do you find the same thing? Is it a mentality that's woven into Forbes?
I think it's a little different. I mean, in an ideal world, I would love it to be like automatically baked in. Where in my organization, it's highly respected and people know about it. We also are coming from a different background. We're a legacy publisher that has been around for 100 years. And so therefore, there is a little bit of clawing in there of making sure that UX has a voice. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what my department does, is making sure that the user gets respected there. I mean, but we also have to be very mindful of other stakeholders and goals. We need to make money, and therefore we have advertising. So it's an endless kind of back and forth, and it's a healthy conversation that's always had, but it's a little different, obviously, from what Amazon is doing. So.
Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned there about the various different stakeholders that you have to be aware of in the process. Today, we're talking about bridging the gap between design and development. Can you perhaps all give us a view of those different stakeholders that you work with, and specifically how the product organizations are structured? So what does it look like for design and engineering? How are they set up? How do they work together? Let's go to Daniel first of all.
Yeah. So Pixel Matters being an agency, we have several different kinds of product teams and the way that the teams are structured. Typically, we work in a way that's very close-knit between developers and designers. So we have constant communication between during the design process, so everyone knows what cards are on the table and what the process constraints are in terms of both development and design. And so we try to always, even if we're working with the clients, we typically work in tandem with them, communicating all the way, so that we'll be able to build the best product possible and not just deliver something and then it's done and we have no feedback. We try to keep a two-way communication at all times.
And I think for you, Daniel, because you act as an agency more with external clients, you're very client focused, right? Everything's orientated around the client. So I guess for Adam and Dan, where perhaps you're not as directly working hands-on with customers, how's things structured for you? Adam, let's go to you first. How are the product design development teams structured for you?
Well, I will say, first and foremost, teams at Amazon are given a lot of latitude to structure as needed for each individual team. So I can only speak of my own team's experience. But I would describe our structure very much similar to Daniel. Our structure is flat and embedded. So design and dev are definitely very separate. And of course, at a major corporation, these are big teams. They really have to be. But at every phase of creation, we have at least one representative from each team included in the meeting and providing input through sign-offs, approvals, technical advice, all that sort of thing. So like while we're just as an example, if I'm doing a UX, I'm creating a UI, the dev team, for example, is going to see that early on, and be shown that early on to go, okay, yeah, that's possible. That's not possible. This, we'll have to do this, and that. So I think that's vital to kind of like the entire development process, so you don't end up with a product that gets thrown to a team and the team's completely taken off guard by what's happening. So.
Awesome. So I love that you've got a lot of autonomy across the various different Amazon companies and orgs to make sure it works for you and it works for your whole product development lifecycle. Yeah,
I think Amazon or UX design, and this is probably true for all three of us, frankly, but UX design is a very horizontal role, whereas like a lot of roles in companies tend to be very vertical. And so we kind of have to touch every single project,
Got it. Dan, what about you as director of product design? How is your structure set up, and also what's your influence over that as well? I think that'll be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, it, like others have said, we really try to get the developers involved very, very early. We have kickoff meetings and shaping meetings. Defining a project, lots of kind of documentation that's required. I have a staff of 6 that I work with that are product designers, all amazing and all have their own strengths. I think there's, I guess what was the question is like how we kind of get the dev side involved is, we're working in Jira, we're having tons of meetings about just showing off whatever feature or design needs to get done and getting feedback on that and how we're going to do it. So it works. We're pretty collaborative. If a developer kind of says it'd be much easier and quicker to get this done if we did X, Y, Z, then we're all ears for that. So.
Got it. Now I'm going to throw a question in here because something I just picked up on there was that the head count that you were talking about, Dan. I'm always fascinated to hear the answer to this next question, even if it's just a rough answer. What's the ratio of designers to developers in your organization? Do you have any feel for, with your design team, how many developers typically you're interfacing with, front-end developers, for example? Dan, you mentioned you had, was it 6 in your team?
Yeah, 6 on our team. And I would say there's about a dozen developers. And it kind of, and then we also use an outside development resource as well. But I would, maybe 12 to 18 developers, front end and some back end. And
okay, API, so about 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 3 ratio. Okay, Adam, what about you?
Yeah, my team's actually kind of in a unique position. I'm, at least for a while, this is actually changing relatively soon, but at least for a while, I've been really the primary horizontal across a lot of vertical teams. Mm-hmm. So the number of devs to me is significant, maybe 25, 30 devs, and maybe 8 or 9 projects on my plate at any given time. Wow. So, we're growing, we're expanding as an internal team. And so that's about to change. But yeah, that you would be surprised actually how much influence one designer can have at Amazon, and especially on my team. Although I will say that is not necessarily common across teams at Amazon. There are teams that have quite a high number of designers depending on the focus of that specific team.
Got it. Daniel, what about you? How many developers, how many designers?
I would have to check on Slack, but I think it's about 12 designers, I think, and about 20 engineers. The design team has really been growing recently. And yeah, we're a very design focused company. Mm-hmm. So we've been hiring more designers recently, but I would say about 1 to 2, a bit more. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, because
ratio.
That's pretty good. And I would imagine that's because you're focused on the customer and you have to be fairly agile and nimble to get that work done for them. Let's stay with you, Daniel. I'm interested to hear a bit more about the development process side of things. How do you measure the product development process? What measures do you use from a development standpoint?
Yeah, because we have different customers and different necessities, we don't really have a way of measuring performance or quality across all projects, because each project has different objectives and so different metrics to base ourselves on. But I would say that the quality of our work is what's more important to us. So if, for example, we are working with only a design team on our end and there's a development team on the client's end, we don't, for example, just deliver the project and that's it. We typically do design QAs. We do some design reviews, so some work to really make sure that what we deliver is what is actually implemented in the end. So one of our slogans is quality is in our DNA. So we really want to make sure that what we deliver is what is actually online or published somewhere. So I would say that a great user experience, great performance, and yeah, that's basically it.
Excellent. Now I'm going to call you out on something that you mentioned to me previously about the name of the company and the slogan there. And what can you tell us a bit more about Pixel Matters?
Yeah, so we're called Pixel Matters because our main, the slogan that I mentioned was one of them, but the main one is every pixel matters. And we really take that seriously. When, for example, when doing front-end development, when implementing the design, we really make sure that every pixel is in the right spot. So that's our main goal when delivering something.
That's excellent. I love that. Every pixel matters. I think everyone's heart is warmed by that when design and development comes together.
Yeah,
that single focus.
That felt like a sauna. That was great. Yeah, that's. I agree, 100%.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's just flip the script a little bit. Obviously, we talked about some of the structures and the teams and the people you've got involved. Working in a cross-functional environment, collaboration is super important to build out great UX. What are some of the common challenges that crop up between designers and developers, especially in fast-paced business where you're trying to deliver regularly, you're trying to deliver to clients, tight deadlines? What are some of the challenges you face? Anyone want to jump in there?
I can jump in. It's just a matter of like making sure communication is really smooth and that we're all like talking the same language and we're calling things by the same name. And just like, especially everybody's remote. So I can't really walk down around the corner of the hallway to kind of say like, hey, this, thingamajig needs to get twisted somehow. You really have to be able to kind of have lots of communication channels open and sort of the terminology needs to be straight, which is really important, I find.
How do you do that, Dan? What are some of the ways that you've done that over the long term? Let's not even think about the near term worldly examples that we've had to throw our teams into. How have you done that?
Mostly, we have, I think it's about relationships too. We want to make sure that everybody is kind of like friendly and has no kind of like fear of kind of approaching different people. And so, we do try to have like lunches and retros, which are much more like kind of getting together as a community, within our company rather than like everything is going to be about hardcore business. So just building up that relationship and also the trust amongst each other, so trying to get some personality and, some good feelings in there is important. But then just technically, obviously, we're using Zeppelin and we're using Jira. Everybody's kind of communicating in the same ways and, everything's on Slack. And so just basically, communication is really, really important.
Communication, trust, relationship. That's what I heard. Adam, what about you? And what are the challenges you're facing there, especially for you where you've got so many people to interface with and limited resources on your side?
Yeah, well, first I have to plus one. I think you saw me chuckle a little bit when Dan said something about terminology because it is so critical to decide. We often start a project and then we have a new feature and we decide, okay, this is the name of the feature. So it doesn't get confused with other features and other terms, because sometimes you can have a whole meeting for like 30 minutes arguing about something that neither side they're both talking about something different. So I've seen it happen. It's super important, especially at large companies. So when it comes to the kind of common challenges between design and development, you wouldn't necessarily think it, but like many big companies, Amazon still has a lot of documents. It's still a document heavy culture. There's still a lot of Microsoft Word and, this sort of thing. And Zeppelin actually there's such a simplicity to kind of the Zeppelin link, kind of that living link that will always get updated and always stay the same. That when we're making these perhaps business requirement documents, or we're making these pitches for new features, our PMs can say, hey, can you give me a link to the mocks or something? And we can just embed it directly into the digital document. And from that point forward, it's beautiful. We can pull that document up 6 months down the road, and that link goes to the mock, and the mock has been updated and has all of the history of that mock for them to go back to. And so Zeppelin really, it fits into even kind of a old school way of handling business. So I think that's honestly been probably the most useful feature for me, is just being able to embed Zeppelin links and have them update automatically.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Daniel, can you tell us a few more challenges that you experience, some of the challenges between design and development?
I would say that communication is key, like you mentioned, all of you. And action documentation is key as well. So having processes well documented so that anyone can just onboard the project easily, because we have a lot of projects and you can eventually jump between them if you have the need to. We need to have everything properly documented. And actually, when I asked designers about what tools they used to make sure that they made their processes easier, they actually mentioned what Adam said about the history of the design. And that's actually very useful for us developers too as well, because I can just, for example, if I feel that something is quite not right with the design, I can just look at the history and see what changes were made. And that's really useful too for me as a developer. So yeah, I would say that communication is key, keeping everyone up to date on what's happening, so that anyone can chip in at the correct moment and give their contribution, basically.
Yeah, awesome. I would also add, like, kind of reiterating kind of what Daniel's talking about, of like sharing the goal of what we're trying to do, because a lot of times I find developers have like a really brilliant idea on how to get there quicker and faster and easier, rather than like the designer who just kind of has been thinking about it too much, maybe. And oftentimes, our developers will come back to us going like, you could try doing this instead of that, because they knew the goal, And so like, as long as like we're all like unified with what the goal is here, we can get there faster and easier. So
I love that. That's superb. I also want to pick up on something you said a moment ago. Everyone mentioned communication, visibility, but Dan, you also mentioned relationships as well. Given what we've had happen over the last 2 years with COVID-19 and lockdowns and limited face-to-face contact, how have you nurtured relationships virtually, and how's that continued for you? Has that suffered at all by being in lockdown?
It has suffered, and like new employee onboarding is so tricky now. It's hard to get people involved. But one of the things I think somebody told me a while ago, one of my bosses at Forbes, was just like, one of the prime motivators is food. And so I have lots of staff lunches where I encourage people, like, expense the lunch. We're going to do a 45-minute meeting. And we're just going to chat. We're going to say it's kind of about official stuff. Hopefully the Forbes accounting department's not listening to this, but and we're going to just kind of get to know each other, whether that be, we're going to have product design, the front end design teams kind of just meet and, get to know each other. Really helps.
Now, you mentioned there about onboarding. And I think when you mentioned bringing in new starters and onboarding, everyone kind of nodded there as well. Are there any specific tools or processes you've put in place to help that specific part of the business, onboarding new people, getting them up to speed with the work that's happening, or the goals, the challenges, the problems you're trying to solve, and anything specific to the last couple of years that's just been crucial to you being able to keep on rolling as a business? Anyone got any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just documentation is really critical. There's only so much we can do when we're 100% remote. I mean, obviously, a new person coming in, it'd be a whole lot easier if there was a room full of people to talk to. But the best thing we can do is document our processes and our designs, definitely via Zeppelin for the designs. And I think we've kind of gotten into this practice of when we're handing off a big project to someone else, we do these sort of like workshop meetings that last maybe extra long one day and involve all of the SMEs, the subject matter experts in the room. And we really make sure that we kind of understand the purpose, why decisions were made, that sort of thing. And that is handed off to the new person inheriting it. So I wouldn't necessarily call that onboarding specifically for new employees, but it definitely happens with new employees. And so that practice is actually really quite useful.
Daniel, any thoughts from you there?
Yeah, I was actually the first remote hire at Pixel Matters because I started when lockdown started. And I really feel that Pixel Matters was a really warm place to begin with. We really prioritize relationships with people. And you were asking about onboarding. We've recently implemented mentorship with onboardees. So I was a mentor to a teammate of mine, and it was really good because it was not only a technical mentorship but also a company mentorship in general. So I gave him the possibility to make me a question about anything regarding the company, like small things like the salary or like processes within the company, those small things that you probably or you may not feel as comfortable in the beginning asking a manager, for example. And we started a new process as well that ended up becoming a tradition of sorts. That is, we do an introduction in a global Slack channel. So introducing the newcomer and everyone introducing themselves. And it's funny because as the months go by, you can see the introductions changing. Because people have gotten new hobbies or people have changed their dates. Like I've been here for 6 months and now I've been here for a year, and teams have changed. So it's funny to see that difference.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a COVID-19 new starter as well. So I joined in the middle of a lockdown, and I can feel that with you. We're running tight on time, so I just want to wrap up with a couple of brief questions here. Looking forward to the future, I want you to look into your crystal ball. What do you think of the future of design and development will hold? How will things change? What can you see shaping the new way in which design development work together in the future? Dan, any thoughts about the future working practices?
I think it's just going to get more collaborative. I mean, like these days, everything just kind of seems just slap blockchain onto it, and that's the future. But I don't think we're quite there yet. But just the future is going to be, even more kind of designers getting involved in devs work and vice versa. Much more kind of a bigger picture kind of thought on everything.
I love that. And you mentioned before about centering around the goal. If everyone's aware of the goal, then there's that opportunity to cross-pollinate. Adam, what about you? What do you think the future of design development collaboration holds?
Actually, I really agree. I feel like Dan stole my response because we agree so much actually on that. That's I really think that the barrier between design and development is going to start to blur quite a bit. I think in a way there's kind of an institutional fear from developers that designers are going to get into development, and there's an institutional fear on the design side that developers are going to start trying to design everything. But I think eventually that wall is going to have to break down almost completely, and we're going to have to get to the point where designs directly produce code and code directly produces designs, and it's really this smooth collaboration. So I really am looking forward to kind of the evolution of tools like Zeppelin to kind of facilitate that sort of moment, hopefully, where front-end design and UX design honestly come together.
Yeah, right on. I hear that too. Daniel, you get the final word on this. What does the future hold? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I totally agree with Adam. I think that the rise of no-code tools are really threatening front-end developers at the moment. But yeah, I think that the future is through communication and through very close collaboration between designers and developers, because it's no point designing a beautiful product if it's not usable, or developing a great and fast product that's not usable as well from a user standpoint, and that does not guarantee the loyalty of your user. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, gents, it's been great to talk to you all today. I really appreciate your time. I could have sat here and talked to you for another half an hour or more. So thank you very much for your time, Daniel, Adam, Dan. Really appreciate it, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.